Today we're going to be painting some Gola Classic trainers. If you're new to our channel, then welcome. We're Brush and Bubbles. We bring you new art tutorials every week. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you like this video, then do let us know in the comments below. This is super fun and I can't wait to show you guys, so let's jump straight into the tutorial. I'm using acrylic leather paint today, and I'm going to be painting my shoes in pastel colours. You can do anything you want and you can use any colours that you like, but these are the colours I'm using. So I've got white, a petal pink, which is a light pink shade, pale blue, which is also like a sky blue colour, pale yellow, gift box blue, which is really more of a turquoise green shade, and then violet, which is a deep purple. The paints that I'm using come with their own brushes in the lids, but I'm going to be using my own brushes just because I get a little bit more precision with these. So you can pick any size or shape brushes that you like. I tend to like using the square shaped one and then also a tiny little detailed one. If you're mixing up your paint colours like I am, you might also want to use a palette. I've also got some frog tape here. You can also use masking tape. This just helps cover any areas that you don't want to get paint on, especially if you're splattering the paint on your trainers. And then this is some acetone. It's also a nail varnish remover, but we basically want to use this to remove the factory spray that comes on the trainers. This just means that the paint will absorb better and hold better. Just rub this all over the trainers using a cotton pad. First up, we want to remove the laces from our shoes and just pop them somewhere safe. This means that they don't get paint on them, and then we can reapply them afterwards. If you haven't already decided what kind of design you want to do on your trainers, you can have a little think now. I'm going to be using pastel colours and painting all of the different areas of the shoe with the pastels. So you might want to flick the paint, you might want to do a design. It's completely up to you. We're going to start by using the acetone and applying it to our cotton bud. And we're just going to spend a good moment rubbing this all over the shoe. We want to make sure we're removing any of the factory setting from the trainer. I'm being careful because I have nail varnish on, and this will take off my nail varnish. So if you're also wearing nail varnish and you're doing this bit, just be careful not to rub off your nail polish. By doing this, we're just priming the shoe nicely, and it means that the leather paint should absorb and hold better on the shoe once we're finished. I'm also going to be showing you how you can apply the frog tape to your trainers. This does take a lot of time, but if you are wanting to splatter your paint on your shoes, and for example you want to keep the soles of the shoes nice and clean, this is definitely a step you do not want to miss. So you can either take out long strips of your frog tape or masking tape like this and just carefully apply it in the areas that you want to keep clear of paint, or you can actually, and I actually found it easier to break the frog tape up into smaller pieces, and then it means that you can get into all of the bends of the shoe as well, just to make sure it's all lovely and masked up, ready for you to paint. Like I said, this bit does take some time, but it can be the most important part of your shoe painting experience, especially if there are areas of your shoe and the design that you really don't want to get paint on. You just want to make sure that it's really pushed up against the edges so the paint doesn't seep underneath. Once you're happy, we can now move on to mixing up some of our paint colours. So I'm going to start with my gift box blue, and I'm just going to add it to a section of my palette. And because I want the shade to be slightly lighter, I'm then going to take some of my white paint and just add it on top. Paint colours are completely personal preference, and remember, if you've mixed up a colour and you don't like it, you're not obliged to use it. You can just mix up a new shade. Taking my medium-sized square brush, I'm just going to give this paint a really good mix. And then whenever you're ready, we can move over to the fun bit, painting on our trainers. So I'm just going to wing this. I'm just going to paint the different sections of the shoe in the different colours. And because I'm starting with this colour, I'll do this section and then I'm going to move on to another one while I'm still using the same shade. Because I haven't masked off any of my trainer, I'm just going to be really careful as I get to the edges, just to make sure that the paint stays in the section that I want it in. Sometimes with these paints you might end up having to do 2 or 3 coats, just depending on the overall look that you want for your design. If you want them to be slightly thicker and a bit brighter, you might find that you need to do a couple of different layers. This part of the process is actually super satisfying, so you can just switch off, relax and enjoy colouring in your trainers of choice. Now I'm going to take some of the same colour. I'm just going to paint another panel on the side of my trainer. I'm just being super careful as I get to the edges. I really don't want to go over it. It's going to be harder to take it away. This is where you can also use different size paintbrushes to get into the different harder to reach places. So I might use my smaller brush just to get right into the corners, make sure that everything's covered up nicely, make sure I'm not going over the lines. I'm now going to flip the trainer around and paint another panel on the other side using exactly the same technique. I'm just going to start with this bigger brush, filling in the bigger areas, and then I'm going to take a smaller brush and use it to get into all of the corners. As soon as you're ready to switch colours, just make sure you're washing your brushes off really well before you move over to your next shade. So I'm just going to give these two brushes a good wash, and then I'm going to move over to creating my next shade, which is a pink colour. So the pink that comes in this tub is actually quite dark and I want it to be a lot lighter, so I'm just going to tip some of it out. And then I'm going to add some white paint to another dish just because I've tipped out a little bit too much of that pink. So I'm going to start with white as my base, and then using one of my paintbrushes, I'm just going to bring over some of the pink and give it a mix just so I can control how light and how dark the paint is. So unless you're doing a specific illustration or design, the lovely thing about what we're doing today here is that we're just going to be doing the same thing each time. So as soon as you've mixed up your next colour, you can just go ahead and start filling in a different section of your trainer. It's just so relaxing and therapeutic. I now just want to paint all of my trainers. I'm now going to move on to painting in the back panel with this same shade, and I'm going to do a couple of coats with this as well. I am trying to be careful not to go over any of the lines or go over the sole of the shoe. I really want the soles to stay white. I've now moved on to paint the panel where our shoelaces are. So when you get to this area on your trainers, if you want to paint them yourselves, just paint the whole area, and then what I sometimes do is take a smaller brush and just paint inside the lace hole just to make sure that it looks nice and covered up and full of paint. But just take this nice and slowly and gradually. As soon as you're ready, you can wash your brushes and move over to mixing up your next shade. So I'm going with this yellow. So this is actually quite a bright shade of yellow. So again, I'm going to be adding the white just to give it more of a pastel tone. Giving it a good old mix and just heading straight back over to my trainers, and I'm just going to carry on filling in some of the different panels now with this yellow shade. I'm just doing a little dance between my two sizes of paintbrush, just depending on the area of the shoe that I'm painting. Don't forget to wash your brushes in between the colours that you're making. So I've just washed my brushes. I'm going to go ahead and make a light blue shade. Again, just adding the blue colour to the palette and adding the white paint on top. I'm just going to carry on doing the same thing until all of the shoe is covered up with paint. Moving over to my last colour now, I'm going to use this violet. So this is a very dark colour, so I'm just adding a little bit. I'm going to be adding lots of white. I'm going to start that again, just adding a few drops just because too much came out then. And I'm going to be adding the white on top and giving it a mix just to make a lovely light lilac shade. If you have followed along and done a similar design to me at this point, you might just want to take a little step back, have a look at your shoe. If you've got any areas that have still got gaps and you want to go back to one of your previous shades, you might just want to have a look and see what colours you want to do. I've tried to separate them out enough. Sometimes it's a good idea to look at something else for a minute and then come back to your masterpiece. I've decided to work on one trainer at a time, but if you wanted to work on both of them at the same time because you're using the same colours and design, then you can definitely do that. I would also take this opportunity to have a little look at the shoe, decide if you want to go over any of the other colours. Again, if you want them to kind of pop a bit more, you want them to be a bit brighter, this is your chance to do that. And if you haven't been painting your other trainer at the same time, once you finish this one, you can move over and paint the other one in exactly the same way. Thank you so much for painting with me today. I hope that you found that useful. If you did, then please do let us know in the comments below. We're Brush and Bubbles. We bring you new art tutorials all the time so that you can get creative from the comfort of your own home. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to hit the like button. It really helps us out. And if you want to continue getting creative with us, then be sure to subscribe and you'll get a little notification every time one of our new videos goes live. Thanks everyone. See you again next time.